up.
All right, Maria, thank you very much. Well, their heartbreaking story grabbed national headlines. David Goldman's ex-wife took his son out of the country illegally, and the battle to bring him home took years and the help of one New Jersey congressman. Goldman reveals the struggle in his new book, A Father's Love, and he's joining us now along with the man who made the reunion possible, New Jersey Congressman Chris Smith. Gentlemen, welcome. Great to have both of you here.
Good morning, Uma. Good morning, Congressman.
David, how are you? Great to see you.
David,
Very well, thank you.
Let me begin with you. You were reunited with your son back in 2009. How's it going between the two of you? Can you tell us about what life is like today?
Well, actually, life is very normal and happy. In fact, he's up with us in New York today, and we're going to go to Chocolate by the Bald Man afterwards and have something to eat and walk around New York. And just like any parent and child and family are so fortunate to be. It took 5.5 years, as you said. She was not my ex-wife. We were married at the time, and she was assisted by her parents, and it did take 5.5 years for us to be reunited. And fortunately, we are really doing well. He's flourishing. He's playing sports. He's just an all-around great kid.
Well, that's wonderful. Congressman, I know that you are introducing legislation to make it much more difficult for families or a parent to take off with a child in this way. And you're calling many people characterize this as a custody battle as opposed to an abduction. But you're saying this is an abduction.
It's all about abduction. If there's a custody battle, it ought to be fought in the place of what we call habitual residency, and in the case of David Goldman, that would be in Monmouth County, New Jersey. But unfortunately, an abduction leads to what we call parental alienation. It hurts the left behind parent. It significantly hurts the abducted child. The evidence of that is overwhelming. Global, year in and year out studies have shown that. So this legislation would make this a country-to-country fight. Countries that have a pattern of non-cooperation, like Brazil, like Japan, which has one of the most egregious records on the planet Earth, would be held to account, and we would prescribe some 18 different types of sanctions, withholding of loans, foreign aid, IMF loans, for example, use our voice and vote to stop those kinds of loans to a country that shows such a pattern of enabling or indifference and non-cooperation. And in David's case, they being the abducting party, they could have carried this on for years by just appealing, and the government of Brazil was complicit. Finally, when we made it a government-to-government clash and put the full weight of the U.S. government behind David Goldman, then things began to change. That is what we have to do for the other 2,500 American children, 1,800 American parents who have been left behind.
David, I know that this has been such an emotional time for you, and some may feel that you may be filled with bitterness through all of this and this experience. Tell us if you feel that way, and also what do you want people to come away with after they read your book?
Well, it's actually not bitterness. It should be inspiration. We overcame something that was seemingly unimaginable to achieve, and it wouldn't have come to the ending that it did if it weren't for Congressman Smith and his belief in knowing that the children need to be with their parents. And it is an abduction. It's not a custody case. And I do hope that it will open the eyes. It will bring light to the issue. In fact, there were over 4,700 children abducted from the United States in the last 3 years alone. And according to the State Department, only 1,200 have been returned. We don't really have proper data to know exactly how they were returned, if the case was closed. But this is it's growing at an alarming rate. We do need help. If we had these sanctions, if we had Congressman Smith H.R. 1940 in place years ago, I wouldn't have had to wait for 5.5 years, and these other parents and families wouldn't have to continue suffering today. Because oftentimes, once these countries know we have it in our arsenal and know we will use it if we show to the worst offenders that we did use it, they'll bring our kids home. So in my book, we do dedicate a whole chapter to these left behind parents, what needs to be done. Also just about the simple loving relationship a parent and child should have. And hopefully folks will walk away being inspired and know that if you just walk the truth and believe what you're doing is right in your heart for our children, they'll walk away feeling really good and learn something at the same time.
Well, it's definitely an inspiring book, and I wish you all the best. I know a lot of people will be touched by what you have written, and hopefully this legislation that you're going to introduce will make a difference.
It's already been introduced. And let me just say one thing about David Goldman. He has set the example of what a left-behind parent. He never showed malice. And I was with him, saw him up close and personal. It was all about Sean. These other parents, like Michael Elias, whose son and daughter were abducted to Japan, have that same sense that they just want their children back. They want to have that relationship that they're being denied by the abducting parent. But David Goldman, I think, is a quintessential example of a father's love for his child. And he inspires. It's not about retaliation, it's about inspiration, as he said.
Absolutely. Well, good luck to the both of you. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, two unknown civil